Hello, welcome to the weekly outlook in the DeFi Dojo. Today is March 2nd, 2025, and what a week it's been. We had some bearish divergence showing up here, and I was able to get out of the market still above that blue line. And now we have recovered back over that blue line after coming back down and tapping the trend. So, for all intents and purposes, this is still an uptrend. We are still technically bullish on Bitcoin. However, um, we are still in between the weekly EMAs. So it's kind of still in the no trade zone. And we need to close above that 8 EMA in order to have confidence that we can potentially go higher. Now, with that said, we did this for, I don't know, it was like 6 months before where we get a big pullback, close above the 8 EMA, get one or two good candles, and then nosedive again. And then it would just repeat, and then nosedive again and repeat. So I'm still not really excited about the market, even though we had a really great recovery in a matter of a couple hours, triggered by Donald Trump's tweet or whatever you want to call it, his message on his platform. I don't even know where it was. But basically, that's still like I don't know. If in my opinion, it's like if it's me and that's what we need to like not be bearish, it's still not great, right? Like it's still not awesome. This market in this cycle has been it's very difficult. We're not getting this type of price action. We're not getting this type of price action. We're getting like 2 to 3 weeks of up and then sideways for a month, and then 2 to 3 weeks of up and then sideways for 6 months, and then 2 to 3 weeks of up and then sideways for God knows how long, right? So it's great for anybody who was able to get in down here. I was one of those people, and I feel really good about how much money I made in the last 2.5 years in crypto. So I'm not rushing back into this. I still want to see this maintain over the EMAs. I mean, even at this moment in time, these EMAs are still technically like pointed slightly downward. So, not that it's not bullish, because it is, and it makes sense that we would recover because we are still bullish. Now, had these been bearish already, then, we might have just tanked. But we're holding trend, and that's great. I still see the bearish divergence here, and that doesn't mean it can't continue, right? So, like if we look at total market cap, oh, that's total three. If we look at total my little blue squiggle here still could absolutely play out. Like it's not invalidated yet. I thought we were going to get a close below the 3 trillion mark this week in a matter of hours. It was able to recover this entire amount and close back above last cycle's all-time high, which is right here. So we're still in the same place that we were in 2021 and for the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 weeks now. So nothing's really changed, but because we've had such a big recovery this week, I thought it warranted a weekly outlook, and we should talk about it. So here's another series of bearish divergences to show you. You can see that this high on the RSI is higher than that one, right? Even though this price is higher, so that's bearishly divergent. Um, it doesn't mean it can't continue higher and maintain that divergence. And so what I mean by that is, let's say, there's your downtrend on the RSI, and here is your uptrend on the price action, right? So what can happen potentially, and I've seen the Nasdaq do this for years, as this asset class matures, it can go into several stages of that same divergence. So this can head higher, and then this can just meet it back at the trend line, right, before it rejects back down. So perhaps you want to take a gamble and try long on this support. Well, once again, and then if we get a weekly close below, we get out, right? And so that's why the weekly closes are so important. Like you could have been totally faked out by this, and I was like my threshold for Ethereum, for example, was 2,500, and so we went below that, and I was like, all right, fine, I'm out of here. I think we're just now getting back to that again. So, I mean, we're still right where I sold it. So, it's still not something that I'm like rushing back into. You can see the minor downtrend here on Ethereum, and we are very bearish on the weekly. You can also see that we have failed the main trend line. I mean, this goes back to when ETH was $6 in 2016. It's our low in 2020, and then we hit the trend line in October of 2023, and now we've broken down below it, retested underneath, and now rejected. So that is not something that I like to see. I thought this right here was going to give us a move back up over and validate it and bring us higher, but it didn't. And now we're heading down into what appears to be the abyss. So looking at ETH against Bitcoin, whenever a chart gets here, 9 times out of 10, it comes into the golden pocket. So there's definitely still room down. And then if you kind of take our pattern that we always look for, and if you've taken my weekly outlook sessions, my one-on-one sessions, you've heard me say this and go over this with you. If you get a move to the golden pocket and then a bounce and then a return to the golden pocket, that means it's very likely it's going to go see the 786 and potentially lower. And that's what's happening with ETH Bitcoin now. So just like it would be on the flip side when we're looking for the bullish pattern to head higher, the same thing happens in bearish times too, where it can go and go lower. So I'm not excited about Ethereum anymore. If anything, I'll probably buy Bitcoin and maybe some alts that look better. Right now, XRP has maintained its bullish stance, was able to bounce off of its previous all-time high for the second time now and stay over the EMAs. Even the XRP chart looks better than the Bitcoin chart on the weekly, right? Because we're still in between the EMAs here and we're above both EMAs here. When we look at ADA, it's the same way. They're actually these are like two of the best looking charts in crypto at the moment. Where are you, ADA? And there you go. So it crossed up over that trend line. We likely get a retest back down around here. Maybe the 8 EMA, I don't know. But this is the opposite of what I was just showing you with ETH Bitcoin. So you get the move to the golden pocket, the sell off, the return, and what you want to see is some sort of support forming at 112 or above, right? So far, we're kind of not showing that at the moment. We're down back below it. But if we can claim that 112 level this week on ADA, then this can absolutely head higher and head up to towards the 786, and then we'll see what happens from there. But that might be a nice trade. I don't know. I've never liked XRP or ADA because I still don't think they even do anything. So if that isn't crypto for you, I don't know what else is. And basically, the two best assets right now are old tokens that don't do anything. So, what does that say about the fundamental respect crypto is getting? I don't know. It's really not much of any. So, um, don't blame me if I'm not super bullish on crypto. I think the market is it's pretty terrible overall. But it doesn't mean we can't try to make some money if we can get some sort of breakout here on Bitcoin or on total to prove that we're going to close another candle back over the weekly 8 EMA. That'd be great. Maybe we get that this week. I don't know. Right now, it's still showing like it's pointed downward to me. So I'd like to see this candle pop back up over the 8 EMA. I'd like to see USDT dominance start heading back down. This is very bullishly divergent. So if you have this major of a divergence on something on a high time frame like the weekly, it makes sense that that's going to start going the other way. You have a minor downtrend here at the yellow line, and then the main downtrend is way up here at the white line. So we haven't even touched that yellow line yet. So as much as this entire candle was pretty much retraced this week, we did stay under the 236, but we're already creeping back up over it. So I don't know. To me, this is 5 candles closing above the EMAs straight now, and I don't like that. So I'm still not convinced, even though we had a nice recovery a couple hours ago. I still want to see more personally. I hope that helps. Let's go look at equities. The dollar strength is still just maintaining right below the main 0.5 level. 107.80, 107.90 is kind of the level we want to see if it's going to break back over. This is a bull flag formation. If you just take the trend itself, you can see we bounced on the 382. That's potentially a sign of a strong trend, and this could absolutely break out of this bull flag and head higher. Now, if we get back up over that 0.5 mark, that could again start to cause problems in all markets. We've already seen downside in the S&P futures. In fact, it's already negative now after starting slightly positive. but it does have the 21 EMA as its current support. In order to start thinking more mid to long term on shorting the market for the S&P and the Nasdaq, I would like to see a close back underneath this 1.618. This is going to be the support to watch, 5,848. The resistance to beat is going to be close a candle over the 8 EMA on the weekly, and that sits currently around 6,000. I'm going to say 15 to 20 by the time it actually does move up there. It's probably where it would be if this started moving back up. So somewhere in that vicinity. Let's see if the pivots give us something. Nope. So basically the all-time high is what needs to be beat for that pivot to break to head to the next one. So again, I'd like to see a close over the ADMA to be bullish. Right now, I'm still thinking bearish because I'm still seeing some severe bearish divergence here, right? This has just been kind of up only for a while. Usually you get the move down and a quick recovery, and since we've had this move up, it's been since October, we've been in the same range, right? And that's typical of potentially seeing some sort of correction coming. You can see that's what happened here in the past. This was just pretty much up only. You get a pullback and then pretty quick recoveries, right? What happens near the top is you get this sideways action for a couple months before it makes the move down. And you see this like flat haircut top here type situation. And that's kind of the same thing we're getting at the moment. And the 1.618 is typically at least a local top of some sort. Sometimes it'll surpass it before it falls, and that's what's happening here. And I think we will see that 58.48 mark this week potentially again, and then we'll see if it breaks below. The Nasdaq already hit its 1.618 and rejected off of it twice now. Again, flat top, bearish divergence, closing both. Here's a big bearish sign also. So when you open a candle above the EMAs and then close below both of them in one candle, that is a very bearish move, and you want to make sure you pay attention to that. Now, it happened before where we had this one, and then the following week it did the opposite, right? So in order to save that candle, this week the Nasdaq needs to close back above both EMAs. If it does not, then we're going to get a situation. Let's see if I can find an example like that. So you see how that marked the top, right? So that's what we need to be careful of, right? Not to say that it's definitely going to happen, but it's just that is a first early sign that can potentially show you that, a year-long bear market is starting. So you can see it can happen like right here, get another candle back down, but then that one invalidated it and closed back above. And you see how they both shoot straight through both candles. So whenever you see that, just a little tip, whenever you see that, your odds of catching the next move are very high, right? So like let's say you just long that because we opened below and closed above, well, you got several weeks of upside. Here, didn't work out. So just to let you know, it doesn't work every time, but it can show that bearishness is starting to creep into the market. And we've had several of these now, one, two, now a third. So, I mean, we're running out of luck, in my opinion, on this finally turning into something that's going to create downside. When we look at Bitcoin against the NASDAQ, it's basically done nothing for a very long time, and they've just been, keeping pace with each other. What we'd want to see is a close above the 1.414 here in order to say, hey, crypto is going to start outperforming the NASDAQ again, right? But since November, it's just been keeping up with it. All right, so, looking at the CME charts, those are going to be important now too because we got big gaps. So here are our gaps on Ethereum. Could see as low as 23.22 this week, or as high as 3,024. And that's a really wide range that we're just sitting right in the middle of. There's another gap here that perhaps will close first. So you have all these scenarios that could potentially happen. Basically a short-term trader's nightmare. So I don't recommend trying any of that. But we got all these gaps that will fill eventually, right? So I guess we'll see what happens. 8 EMA here. I don't know. Shit's all over the place. So I don't like this chart. This one looks a lot better. So if you're going to pick something to go long on, pick Bitcoin. If you're going to pick something to go short on, pick Ethereum or anything affiliated with Ethereum. And then if, long, you want some more risk, anything affiliated with Bitcoin to long that might be a little more risk to reward for you, go for it. I'm personally sitting out until I see closes above the 8 EMA on everything. So with that, um, I'm sure you were looking for something a little more exciting, and I'm sorry that I don't have it for you, but not yet. Any chart requests, questions, or anything you want to ask me? I'm doing a lot of gardening these days, so if you have any gardening questions, you can ask those too. Going once, going twice. Nobody's got a chart. Uber. Okay, let's do it. Uber. That's not Uber. Technologies. Okay, it's kind of bull flaggish. Let's see what fib we're hitting. All right, so trading in the range. It's what you'll probably want to do until we break one of the fibs, either at $88 or at 64. Currently, retesting the 8 EMA bullish, which is great. So you could attempt a long here, try to scalp it back to the 1.272 with a stop loss just underneath the 8 EMA or the 21 EMA, whichever you choose on your risk levels. Yeah, that might be a decent setup. Let's see. So let's just assume we're going to open up somewhere around there. If that is your target and that is your stop loss, that's like a 3-to-1. That's not bad. And then, obviously if you break it, then you'll take it to the next one. But I would do one level at a time. And again, we use these 3 take profit levels for a reason, because it doesn't always get to the 1.618. Sometimes they stop right there and that's the end. Sometimes they stop here and that's the end. If we look at Bitcoin, so far it's stopped at the 1.272, and we still don't know if we're going to head up to the 1.618. Again, I still do not think that we are going to get past the 1.618. So for anybody, trying to trade this and thinking we're going, way higher, I don't know. I don't see it personally. Not that it's impossible, but the previous cycle didn't get above this level, and so I don't anticipate that happening unless there's some serious fundamental reason for it to do so. So let's see. We got gold. I haven't looked at gold since I sold it. What's it doing? Okay, yeah, we got over the 1.618. Cool. That's a bearish engulfing candle though. So, I mean, yeah, if you're still holding gold, then yeah, it's still a hold. And then if you close a candle below the 1.618, I would recommend, taking your profits until it can get back above it. But as long as it's holding above it, that's great. But that is also some serious divergence as well. So you got there to there, and then you got there to there, right? So take that for what it's worth. Tesla. All right, Tesla. That's not it. So we could come back down and hit that trend line retest here. But as long as we hold over this downtrend, it's still a hold for me anyway. I mean, my average is so low that I'm not even thinking about selling for probably forever. So, 21 EMA is right around 260. So that's going to be our support this week. And perhaps if we see 260, I might try to scalp a long just for a day trade. And it's failed the 382, which sucks. So that's not ideal. That means the trend's broken, and it's probably going to need some consolidation. But the first move, the first bounce you get is going to be the biggest one. And so, deeply oversold here on the daily. And maybe we can catch 260 would be a great support to try to catch. You can see how well that support would probably hold based off all these previous candles here. So I'll set an alert there. And that might be something I try to scalp this week. Not working for me because it wants to use. Where did that alert go? There it is. Okay. Right there. Okay. Sui. Let's look at Sui. I got a new mouse and it goes way too fast. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's the take profit zone, and so it doesn't surprise me that that's now in a downtrend. Didn't quite get to the 1.618, and this whole thing looks very Wyckoff-ish looking. So let's see, what's the weekly say? So it's still closing candles below the EMAs. We need a candle close at the very least above $3.33. And until then, it's probably going to head lower. So we might get a bounce because it's kind of just hanging out around the 50 on the RSI. So we might get a bounce this week, but it's not looking good so far. Um, yeah, I don't buy things when they're in this area. I like buying things when they're like down here. So if there was something to speculate on, I still like peak because that's where it is. And so if it's going to be a good layer one, maybe that's worth a shot as long as we stay over the 786, right? And so that would be my cutoff. If we close the candle below the 1542 level this week, then fine, we get out. Meanwhile, it's only 1631, so our risk is still, potentially, 8 to 10% if it closes below there, which isn't bad. And maybe it can do the same thing this did because that's what it looks like, right? Like coming down into here and then making the big move, coming down into here, making the big move. So um, I would much rather take my shot on something like that than something that's already been accumulated and skyrocketed and now looks to be distributing potentially. And I wouldn't risk it until we got back over that 333 level. Soul. No, no, where am I using the wrong chart right now? What was this? This was like Bitcoin or something. There we go. Okay, we're gonna go use this one. Soul. Perhaps, Trump can make Soul great again. I don't know. But the EMAs are now bearish on the weekly. So, I don't know if we're going to get another scenario like this where it was bearish for like 2 weeks. But once we see a candle close back above the EMAs, like right there, that's the cue to get back in. And that's actually where I bought it last time, right? It was like right there. That's why that blue line's there, because that's where I bought it. So if we get a candle that moves up here and closes above both EMAs, and if it does, it's probably going to just barely do it because it would take quite a bit for it to happen. Then that's when I would consider getting back in. At the moment, I would consider shorting Soul at 180 to 192, 188 to 192. That's where I would consider shorting with stops just above, because this is also very divergent, right? Trending down, trending up. So according to technical standards, that would be something I would want to short. Um, you could, if you're a bull, attempt the long and say like, hey, this 886 here is my stop loss. If we close a candle below there, I'll just get back out. And right now we're already under it, so um, you know the downtrend retest here for several weeks in a row. Maybe that's where you want to try. And if you close a candle below the trend, then get back out. It's a low risk shot to take a move up. And perhaps you can even just take profits at the 8 EMA if we get a good bounce this week. Up to you. Everything looks pretty grim still. Like it's not amazing, uh, even considering how big of a return we've gotten this week at the end of the week. Futu, Futu, Futu Holdings. All right, well, it's in an uptrend, so that's a good start. And let's see where we sold off. It looks like 786. Yep, okay. So wait for a candle close above 125.82 on the weekly, and then it'll go higher. If it can't, then it's a double top, and that's not great either. So it's holding the 8 EMA, which is right around 105.93 right now. So that's your support, and that 125 level is your resistance. So closing a candle below that support is a bad sign. Closing a candle above this resistance here is a good sign. In between, it's kind of like no man's land. I've seen you use fib retracements, but what other indicators do you use? I use fib retracements, the 821 EMAs, pivot points, and volume profile. Volume profile. You don't see me use volume profile too much on the weekly outlook, so it's because it's a little more complicated and harder to explain while I'm doing it. But essentially, I use it to see where the gaps are in order to see if there's a potential big price movement coming potentially, and then where it might stop because there's hills and valleys in that profile. Um, so I hope that answers your question. That's really all I use. MACD, RSI, divergences. That's it. Like I don't overcomplicate it with those fancy flashy indicators, and I think human behavior can be read pretty well with fib retracements and just the EMAs alone. You're welcome. Rolls Royce. R C no RYCEY. Defense contracts in EU, but they also have another ticket in London, I think. That's cool. Ooh, that is one hell of a V-shaped recovery. I would have never guessed that Rolls-Royce was doing that bad at any moment in time. But perhaps, yeah, COVID made people not want to buy fancy cars, I guess. Okay. It just took a couple years to recover. Okay, well, it's very likely going to go hit 1028, which is that 786. And then I would attempt, me personally, to scalp a short right off of that level. Because every time it hits that 786, the very first time it touches it, it always reacts, especially on a recovery that big. And so you'll likely be able to get a nice short out of that, at least for like a day trade. I'm not saying like swing a short. And then wait for that 786 to close over after it bounces off of it. And then once you close in this zone, then that's when you can be more confident that it can go see higher, like new all-time highs. And GameStop, old GME. Yeah, so it's still got to get over that point 0.5. That's what I've been waiting for. So, yeah, looks like it's going to turn bearish on the weekly here shortly. Two attempts to get over the 70 on the RSI. And until we can break 34.66 and close a weekly candle over, it's likely going to start trending back down again. The move was the falling wedge. It already happened. This is just a residual bounce following that big move, and it's likely going to head lower, in my opinion. Okay, that was a fun one. All right, guys, thank you so much, and I will post the recording in the Weekly Outlook channel. And if you have any questions and/or chart requests, feel free to drop them in the chart requests channel, and I will get to them as soon as I can. Let's see what we get this week. Maybe we can get a big enough move to get us back up over that 8 EMA, but so far we're still looking like we're rejecting it. So we'll see. Maybe we need a few more Donald Trump messages. I don't know. Anyways, I'll see you during the week. See you guys. Bye.